Okay, hello everyone. Hey, we're going to get started then because I think we're running a bit late. I think this is all we're going to get. We're competing with Drupal recipes, so, or is it there's no interesting product in Drupal? We'll explore that. Let's see. So yeah, this is how product managers can bring clarity to Drupal Teams. I have a Slido there if you prefer asking questions as you go along in there, or if you think of something afterwards, that's going to be open for the day. If you want to screenshot that, you're welcome to. I'll share it again at the end. Yeah, let's get going then. So about me first, my name's Paul McCrodden. I've been working in Drupal since 2010. I had a bit of a break. But in general, I'm a product manager. I'm working with the University of Cambridge at the moment. I like working on tech for good products. I'm also a Shivam yoga instructor. I teach in Twickenham in a studio called Hair in the Moon, and I am a certified permaculture designer as well. So I lived in Japan for 6 years, and that's a photo of me and my son growing in our garden there, our vegetables. So yeah, I have a diverse skill set, and I guess that's of benefit in product. So we can talk more about that in this presentation as well. In terms of tech career, and I guess what's more appropriate and in line with this talk is I started my career as a C++ and Java software engineer in telecoms, working for Ericsson. And then I started working in the web, working in PHP, and then in 2010 I quit a consultancy to start working on my own in Drupal, and started, my friend actually taught me how to use Drupal 5, and then I started to make websites in Drupal 6, making websites, apps, and web systems. I then worked for Pantheon for a short amount of time in 2016 when I was working for a company called X-Team. They are an agency that recruits software engineers from all over the world. Then I worked in HR, and that's how I got into product. That's how I went into product for X-Team. I was a technical recruiter, hiring developers, placing engineers from all over the world before the pandemic when remote wasn't really a thing. And so it was great getting people from all over the world to jobs and getting paid well, good, well-paid jobs, mostly US clients. But I started to build HR tech products in line with that, and that's how I got into product. I stayed there and became product director, and then I started to work in a UK company in climate tech, very different to Drupal, smart charging EV, electric vehicles. So I had hardware, and it was in the Japanese market. So when I was living here but working in the Japanese market, and I'll mention more about that later, I've kind of come full circle now, and I'm product manager of the Cambridge web platform in Drupal. So big long-winded intro, but sets the stage. There's my Drupal.org. I used to do Drupal stuff. That's the proof. Why this talk? We're going to cover that. We're going to cover the state of product management in Drupal, in my opinion, maybe. Get your opinion as well. That's what this talk's going to be about. Characteristics of a good product manager. Then I'm going to share some resources for product management. If you're a product manager or not, they're going to be helpful, and I think they're going to level up your way of thinking. Let's see if you agree. Their tools and techniques. And then potential future of product management in Drupal. So continuing why this talk, that is a Drupal product coming out of a box. Yes, that's what I was going for. This outcome of this talk is product mindset useful for your digital products that you're building in Drupal? And who is responsible or should be responsible for your product strategy? Is it a manager? Is it the team? Is it a full-time or fractional product manager? And I guess we'll start then by asking what is a product. And a product really is anything that's created that solves a user problem and delivers a user value. So I think if we're working in Drupal, we're pretty much working on products, whether it's a website or not. That's something that's delivering a user value. So that's a product, and I believe product thinking and product mindset can be beneficial in that space. what is a product manager? The person that sits kind of has the business input, the market input, and also on the delivery team usually as well. So they have the kind of they have the vision of what that product should achieve, and they're working with the delivery team to achieve that goal or that vision for the product. So is product thinking missing in Drupal? I don't know. Let's see. Is Drupal different? Probably in some ways. State of product management in Drupal. So my observations here in this space is that there's a rare mention of product management roles. There's no product management Slack channel in the Drupal Slack, and often the product owner role is what people are most usually referring to in this space. Just actually a show of hands, who in the room has worked with a product manager on their Drupal teams? Product owner? Product manager? So, in general, yeah, got it. Okay, so it looks like most people have, and that seems to go in line with the survey that I shared. I shared it on LinkedIn, shared it in Drupal Slack. Maybe some of you submitted it. I think Laura, you might have submitted it. Thank you. I got 22 responses by the time I created the slides. It was about 25, I think. So a few responses. It was great to get this input. And just in summary, we see the same as the show of hands there, really. 77% have worked with a product manager, and then it was really evaluating like the success, what people's feeling of working with a product manager in the Drupal space is. 80% of people felt that there was a greater chance of success when working with a product manager, and that the benefits included reduced noise, a greater focus on users and value and focus there, and then a better planning and organization. What was more interesting to me then, for a few reasons, was a question I asked around who performed the product owner duties to prioritize and manage the development backlog then. And I realized I made a mistake in the survey, is that I had asked who has worked with a product manager, if not, like who's doing the product owner role. Like I had kind of asked, I had assumed that whoever was the product manager is doing the product owner duties. So, but actually it wasn't the case. So we had people like LocalGov, Will, who's the product manager in LocalGov, had responded to that question anyway, basically saying the team does the product owner duties there, but he's the product manager. So there's already we're seeing the conflict, and also I've actually worked as a product manager where I wasn't the product owner as well. So I think that product manager is not listed as a role much in Drupal. You see that there's a different responsibilities there. So basically the short of the story is respondents said that they worked with a product manager, yet the product manager wasn't doing the PO role. But then where are the product manager roles in Drupal is my thinking. It seems like a gap, and I'm wondering why is it feeling that it's not needed, and that's what this talk is about really. So what we see in the responses, 14 of the responses that answered this question then, is that who's doing the product owner responsibilities? The product manager is doing 14%, the team collectively is doing 14%-ish, project manager is the highest, the client, very interesting, very scary response as a product manager. The client is prioritizing the backlog. This is what I've noticed from being a Drupal developer as well, that it has quite what I would say is the opposite mindset to a product mindset a lot of the time. In my opinion, why would the client be prioritizing your backlog? Does the client know how to deliver the value for the product? It seems like it's upside down. So then we have team and client, so it's a little bit more collaborative, 7%, and it depends, 7%. So product manager versus product owner, what's the difference? Who cares? Maybe me. I don't know if anyone else cares. But basically, product management is a strategic role. So what not to build is often just as important or more important. Because I think because as being a Drupal developer as well, it's very easy to do things in comparison to other stacks. You've got a lot out of the box. And that's why there's a tendency to just do lots of stuff, busy work. like, does it provide value? And I think that's sometimes missing in Drupal Teams. Product owner, this is a definition from using the Scrum guide. So product owner is actually a Scrum role. It's in a Scrum team. So the Scrum guide defines a product owner, and I asked Copilot to give me a summary of it, and it says, the product owner is responsible for maximizing the value of the product resulting from the work of the Scrum team. They manage the product backlog, ensure that it is transparent, visible, and understood. So then they hold the keys to the backlog. Product manager then, responsible for guiding the success of the product by defining its vision, its strategy, understanding the customer needs, and aligning the development efforts with the business goals. They oversee the market research, they prioritize features, and ensure effective cross-functional collaboration to deliver value to users and stakeholders. So you can see it's quite different, actually, even in what Copilot's saying there. The product manager is is more strategic role, and it's doing more than what that product owner definition is. Do you need a product manager then for teams that don't? Maybe not. In some cases, like it depends what way you're working in the market. Some agency work is literally, can you build us this thing and we'll pay you? And they just have no other, there's not much of a negotiation there of like, is that even the right thing to build? I'm hoping that we're moving away from that world. I'm seeing a bit of a change, and I think Drupal CMS is going to make that change even greater, because that is a product built with Drupal as well, so it needs that product mindset, and it has it. So the maybe not is on teams that already have strategic roles, people that understand the market, they work with stakeholders, clients and the delivery team, and they can often be engineers, designers, customers, success managers, and founders. So on local gov again, for instance, Will is the product manager, but on the separate sub-products there, you have the tech leads who are very strategic, and they're working with the stakeholders, and they're collaboratively doing the backlog and aligning with, say, Will's vision that he's set as a product manager. That's just an example of that. And then do others have time? So this is always the question of, like, should an engineer really be doing the product manager job, or should the project manager be doing it? They've got other responsibilities to focus on, and are we distracting them from getting them to do this? Like, for example, if you're asking an engineer to do this work, well, that's time they could have been spent doing engineering work. There's also conflict of interest whenever you have someone that's not a product manager in this role, because if I'm an engineer, I'm going to be leaning towards engineering solutions. I'm going to be trying to deliver based on what I think is the best engineering outcome a lot of the time. Or if I'm a designer, I'm going to be focused on making design. I'm going to be leaning towards that direction. So there can be a conflict of interest there. There's also anti-patterns that can come up when someone's not a product manager, if they're not experienced in that area. You get because I said so, it's important, so we're going to do it, or because the client wants it. We promised that to the client, usually the worst one, where you've signed up to something that you probably shouldn't be doing at all. And we saw some of because the client wants it on the survey results there. Yeah, it's hard work being a product manager, but someone's got to do it. So I often, for bigger projects and products, it is a good idea to have a dedicated person. This is a characteristics, personas for product management success. The guide leads the way. I don't know if any Scottish friends are in the room, but they might recognize that character. The Mythbuster, cut the BS, and the dude. The dude abides. Okay, we're going to go into each one of these. The guide kind of looks like a product manager style a little bit, maybe. I don't know, if I had hair, maybe I'd go for it. The guide. This is something that I heard recently from a product built in Drupal, where the founder essentially was looking for a Drupal developer. They were a founder, they sold the company, they were looking for a Drupal developer, but they didn't even have a plan of what they really wanted to do. They had just these little bits and pieces, but the whole product needed strategic input. So Mark, who works in local.gov, had connected them with me, and basically it said, you need a plan, not a man kind of thing. So we should start there. So what is a plan then, and who creates the plan? So a product plan is usually like the implementation detail, and a lot of those other pieces, it's down at the bottom there in product plans, but that's based on everything above it. So you might have seen this before. Usually it's in like a triangle from the vision at the top down to the bottom. But in this one, I like this version of it because you can see that the business vision is the horizontal that goes across your organization, and it impacts maybe multiple teams. And then that goes down to the specific product that you're working on, your product vision. So in the University of Cambridge, I guess the business vision is to have like a secure web platform for the websites. We're getting off Drupal 7 at the moment onto Drupal 10, whereas the product vision will be thinking longer term of being like the platform that can serve the content for the university for many years into the future. And then the business, time-based business goals of the product, like product objectives, such as getting onto a secure platform, and Drupal 7's end of life now. And then the product strategy down further than that might be things like migrating the simplest sites first. So that's what we're doing. We're migrating the simplest sites over to Drupal 10 first and expanding our capabilities on the product as we go along, and migrating the more complex sites as we go along. Product roadmap then would be time and goal-based articulation of this product strategy. So it would be like separating all of these into tracks, and you want to have certain tracks done by Q2, this kind of a strategic input. And then the plan would be the more implementation details. We need to support paragraph migration for something specific to unblock this type of website. So strategy, delivery, and communication then. So the roadmap then is a kind of strategy document. It will tell you like strategically what you're going to be delivering in a particular quarter, let's say, over a time period. The plan then is a more delivery-focused document, more specific, probably should be kept internal, owned by engineering team, or at least aligned with the engineering team. So delivery team needs alignment on the roadmap, but they commit to the plan, or they've created the plan together. And externally then you might communicate that in a different way. And this is just one of those kind of, I'm flagging something that I think is useful for another talk. Can't go into the details too much, but you would kind of filter what you have internally with what you can share externally. So you might have stakeholders or clients that want to know, what are you going to deliver in Q4, and they want some huge detailed roadmap or plan of what you're going to deliver, and you can't really give those details. Now, next, later plans are a very good way to do that, where the immediate is the now in 2 to 4 week timeline, the next is upcoming priorities over 2 to 4 weeks to 3 months timeline, and later is a 3 to 4 months timeline. And you can get less specific as you go further in time, and the now is much more detailed, so you can give them more information. I've found this to be a great way in multiple jobs as a product manager, and I think teams in general, whether they have a product manager or not, can check those types of roadmaps out and benefit from them, so that your clients aren't chasing you too much for the details you can't provide, or signing yourself up to something you're not ready to commit to yet. That was the zoomed out perspective. Sorry, I'm flying because I was late starting. I'm going to go and zoom in on the details now. So this is something that I find teams that are not used to working in a product way can struggle with, and that's how to slice up releases to deliver value sooner. And using user story mapping is one way to achieve this, and I recommend you check that out, and we'll just do a quick overview of it. So you'd have your activities across the top, and then you'd have basically your slices, your release slices on the left. So you see POC, MVP and MMP there. So and then the activities on the screen there are find event, make a booking, a payment, and a generate a ticket. Like these are all things probably for a product that has a cart or some kind of purchase process. You'd put those things, the stickies down, what you need, the bare minimum you need to make a POC work for each of those items. Maybe some of those things, like those activities, you don't even need in the POC. And then that's how you can start to slice and you build up those things over time. Like starting with POC might have some things that are manual, and then make it automated further down, maybe in the MMP. I believe MMP stands for a minimum marketable product. They use that terminology, and MVP, minimal viable product for the market. User story mapping, I recommend to check it out. And I'll provide a detail later on a book that I recommend. The Dude, a character that if you like The Big Lebowski. What traits of the Dude are good traits for a product manager? Integrity, they can be direct, yet step back when necessary. They have a sense of humor, humility, emotionally intelligent, patient, and a good listener. What does that mean for the team? It means that they're going to be able to shield the team from noise. So that is inevitable when you've got lots of clients and stakeholders that are interested, say, in your product. We definitely have that in the University of Cambridge, not because the stakeholders are noisy, it's just because we have 500 plus websites and it's inevitable that there's going to be a noise. So we have to, in product and delivery, shield the team from this noise to give them space to actually do the work. The person that does this, basically, is the product manager a lot of the time, and that takes energy. Just some stories from my experience and my past job in the EV smart charging company. I started, and then one month later, I had to travel to Japan myself to represent the company, and I went with an engineering manager who was new as well. My manager couldn't make it, so I was there with a very complex stack and complex product trying to represent the company to big, large Japanese corporates. And the engineering manager I was with said that it was like going into the Death Star when we were going into these large Japanese corporates. So that's kind of one example of kind of doing what it takes to bring confidence, meet the clients directly. Another one was when we had this big 4-hour-long API meeting of how to turn on the cars and smart charge them and whatnot. Very, very intense meetings. This is the kind of stuff that I believe product managers should be doing to shield the team from, to an extent, and just doing that stuff that a lot of the time nobody wants to do. Also on that same client, I had to have meetings where it was in Japanese and English, so I had one headphone on my head at the English and one headphone on my head with the Japanese at the same time, trying to do the meetings remotely, and it was blowing my mind. So I think that sometimes your mind gets blown up as a product manager too, but it has to be done. And we released the first smart charging product in Japan then last year. The Mythbuster, look at these guys. Perfect look at representation of product managers. You probably remember them from TV from years ago. You have to do a lot of myth busting in product management. Is it a science? Is it an art? Not sure, a bit of both maybe. You can see some of those things there. But I think what's interesting there is that sometimes it's a bit of an escape artist or a risk mitigator. And I think that trying to protect the team from going down the wrong pathway is probably the most important part of the role. There's lots of different biases and fallacies and whatnot. There's a few of them listed there. We're not going to go into all of them, but I will mention a few. So sometimes the owls are not what they seem. Whoever likes Twin Peaks here will remember that one. So things may not be what they look like on the surface. Does anyone know what this is? Yes? What is it?
It's the World War II, all the return with the bomb, and the team was trying to analyze where the problem is.
Yeah.
But then they forgot that that are
the survivors.
Yeah, the survivors. But
exactly.
Then they forgot that which one is the low, where is the low hanging, a problematic part.
Exactly, yeah. So it's called survivorship bias, and it was came up by Abraham Wald, this statistician, I hope I pronounced that right, in World War II, when all the airplanes came back, they analyzed them to see where were the error parts, and all of those red dots were like an example of the parts that got shot. So the people started planning to, reinforce those red parts. But actually, the planes that survived had the red parts. The planes that were shot in the parts without the red were the ones that crashed and blew up. So actually, it was the opposite way around. It was that you were only looking at the data of the ones that survived. So that's called survivorship bias. In my opinion, Google Analytics is an example of this often, and that one example even before GDPR, when desktop versus mobile, people used to have the browser extensions and they'd be blocking the cookies on the desktop, but the mobile wouldn't have those. So you'd start to see that there was so many mobile users, but actually you weren't looking at the right data. You didn't have the clear picture. GDPR adds another spanner to that works, where you've got like people rejecting those even more these days as well. So what is Google Analytics these days? It's one input, and that's fine if you realize that it's one input. Why does it matter? I think it matters in this case because who are your users that are rejecting those cookies? Maybe they're the more legally kind of focused users, or they're the more technical users. So your data is biased. You're filtering your technical users out more, that kind of thing. So how do you avoid it? You triangulate your inputs with more inputs than just relying on Google Analytics. So that's part of product as well, is triangulating your inputs, and then that will, again, risk mitigation. Another bias there, cognitive and confirmation biases. So this is a quote from one of my favorite films, Pi, by Darren Aronofsky. When your mind becomes obsessed with anything, you filter everything else out and find that thing everywhere. 320, 450, 22, whatever. You've chosen 216 and you'll find it everywhere in nature. But Max, as soon as you disregard scientific rigor, you are no longer a mathematician. You're a numerologist. So you should watch that film. It's a nice one. But basically, if I think it's on the next slide actually. There's a confirmation bias. I'll go with the middle one first. Confirmation bias is the tendency to search for or interpret and remember information in a way that confirms one's pre-existing beliefs or hypothesis. So you already have a hypothesis or belief. You're going into that looking for that pattern, and you're going to find it because that's what you're looking for. Clustering effect. Clustering effect is a cognitive bias where individuals perceive patterns or clusters in random data, often leading them to believe that there is an underlying cause or meaning behind the apparent pattern. So we make up things to an extent that suit or that we perceive. One example, maybe the survey I did. I've come into that looking for this answer because that's what I believe, so I have a confirmation bias. But I have other inputs, so we're okay. Triangulating. Sunk cost fallacy, I see this a lot. You're probably familiar with it as well. Say, coming onto a team, you get an input from the team that we've built all of this stuff, and let's just finish it, because otherwise it's just sitting there and it's wasted work. So I completely understandable human feeling to want to complete something, but is it the thing that brings you closer to where you're trying to get to? Is it bringing you value? Often the answer will be no again, and then you have to say, sorry, we're not going to complete that thing now because it doesn't get us to where we want. And people get disappointed, that's fine, but you just have to manage that again, another part of the job, and this is why it's hard. Because there's more than just technical things there. You have to manage people's expectations. So the product manager's job is to shift the mindset, create a product strategy, split that up into sprint goals, for example, reduce scope and deliver value in slices, and then change minds. When you start to see the value being delivered is where you start to see that this works, this mindset. So overall, there's resources then for product managers that I recommend, if you're a product manager or not, and because they're useful in general. In terms of strategy, people to follow, Marty Kagan, Melissa Perry. In terms of insights and how to run discovery, Continuous Discovery Habits, the book by Teresa Torres, highly recommend that. Leadership books there, I'm in the middle of reading that top one by Marty Kagan, Empowered Product Teams. The Simon Sinek's one, I didn't get that one this time, but it's supposed to be very good, so I put it on there too. Delivery, the one that I mentioned earlier around user story mapping. Discover the whole story, build the right product. Very good book, recommend it. Empathy, I just put this one in as well. I think it's really important to just look after yourself, because when you're working on product, it can be a bit heavy sometimes. But also in terms of, so whatever it may be, for me it's yoga, for other people it's something else, running, something like that. I think it's overlooked sometimes, you can burn out easily. What else? In terms of empathy for users, Steve Krug's Don't Make Me Think, I remember that book from years ago. That would be one that I think for user empathy is very good. And communication, telling stories. I think it's a big part of the role, being able to tell stories, and I highly recommend Storyteller Tactics for anyone creating presentations. It's a beautiful product itself. You can have there's a hard cards version, and there's also the Miro boards version as well. I really recommend that for anyone thinking of doing a talk or that is interested in storytelling in general. Please check it out. Again, that Slido is on the right there with that code. If you have anything that you think of, you can add it in there. But future of product management in Drupal, is this kind of thinking beneficial in the Drupal context? That's my question. Is product like what can we do to have a more product mindset on Drupal Teams if we find it to be valuable? Let's share. Maybe it's creating a Slack channel for product management, just an idea. Thank you very much. I'm happy to take questions. Maybe I'll ask you anyone a question. Do you feel that product thinking, or is that feel like that's missing from Teams, or is that the way you're working at the moment anyway? Any input from anyone?
I would say I work in a university, so we have Drupal users, Drupal developers, but also work with Drupal development agencies.
Right.
I think, yeah, it is missing. It's something that I've come to the role I'm in a couple of years ago, and I'm in the process of trying to change. But trying to change, you work in a university at the moment,
right?
Trying to change
hard,
several thousand people's perspective of what you do is sometimes somewhat tricky.
Yeah,
so,
absolutely.
It's a long journey to try and introduce those ideas. So
yeah,
I think it's missing.
Exactly. No, I agree. It's hard to change for such a big. Usually, these universities have been around a long time. They're very big. They're used to the way of working that they're used to. So yeah, it's tricky. All right, you have to prove it through delivery of value.
You have to do the work to show them why it's going to be useful before you're allowed to implement it.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. You got to sneakily do it. Anyone else? Were you going to say something?
Yes,
yeah.
Similar. I also work for the university.
Yeah.
Hundreds of years, has been around for that long. And we try to introduce this agile mindset. And we spend a lot of time on, implementing agile, scrums, and whatever it is. And we never have got up to the top, to the actual mindset. So it hasn't been able to make anyone happy because it hasn't started from the right point.
Yep.
And it's this challenge that they're always looking at the bottom of the whole process to blame it.
Right.
When they should be looking up to where did you start from. You were never going to achieve that thing because you never knew what that thing was.
Yeah,
so
right.
you can't deliver it if you don't have a vision of what it is that you're trying to deliver.
Right. So basically having this clearly defined. Yeah.
I love that slide.
Yeah.
And also the sunk cost fallacy.
Right.
We were suffering from that because we've gone so far with no vision.
You just keep going. Are we even going the right way? Yeah.
And where do you stop to actually think, what is it I'm trying to do here? Well, you didn't have a vision to start with, so you can never deliver against it.
Yeah. Yeah. So bound for failure, basically. In some ways, you can make some, lucky wins, but yeah, if you've got this defined, the chances of being successful are greatly increased, I think. Anyone else?
Yeah,
go ahead.
so from my experience, I've been doing Drupal for like last 20 years, and I've been working on big enterprise companies. The one thing I found, again, the whole agile thing is a big struggle. I feel like it's very muddy in the whole different verticals, like the finance and who's going to sponsor, like again, different people sponsoring different features, and you have a massive platform with all these things coming in. So I kind of find it like those are different verticals, and the product kind of rolls around with all of them. So it's very muddy. Like there is no specific product owner slash product manager role per se. There is a project managers who are running the day-to-day things, and then there's like a higher level business vision people, but there's a massive gap in between. The place is almost like a hit and miss. So some teams, the product owner bit casually come in because the project manager was a technical person or the developer who has some knowledge of how the product to be developed, how to set the expectation and things like that. It's a virtual person that sits, like that's part of people sharing, and they all come together and they do the project, then it works so well, and then the other part of the team or a company, they start asking questions like how they can deliver agile fashion, and you guys are kind of same level, same knowledge, same budget, but then you can't deliver. But because it's just a very weird thing, it's almost like something in the building, but you can't see it. Like that team
Soft
has something
structures.
going on, and I kind of realized while looking at these things, like why it's working in one project, not on the other.
Right.
Yeah.
Nice. Thanks for sharing. It's great.
Yeah,
Sorry.
So I'm really lucky. My boss recruited me as a product owner for a bit of farm management software that's built in Drupal.
Right.
And I was a bit too successful, so now they want to turn me into what you're calling a product manager.
Right.
And my biggest problem, like I'm quite fortunate, like I think I have a lot of these skills naturally, but my biggest problem is when you split from product owner to product manager, people are like, where's the money coming from?
Right.
And if it was a closed source piece of software, that's kind of easy. But because we have a GPL version 2.0 license, I'm like, where is the money coming from? I don't know. This is not skills I have.
Right.
Do you have like resources, or is it like groups who like product manager owners for open source who are like in that space?
Right. So just let me understand your question. You're talking about like someone is asking you for input on funding.
Well, so basically, I built this bit of research software, so
Right.
it works really well for the organisation that I built it for
Right.
with our web devs. And now they're like, great, give this to both the farmers and to the other research institutes. And so suddenly I'm like, oh, that's really big, and I have to find a way. Someone's got to pay for this. So
Right.
developers. And yeah, I'm just a bit. And I was in the other talk in here a bit earlier this morning where they were talking about, how do you fund open source? And I was like, well, you have to have a product manager of some kind because you're selling something.
Right.
And I'm really struggling to find that place of like, okay, here you've got your product owner, you've got your like really like tidily structured team, like you would have, like I have within the institute. And then if you're trying to actually set up something that multiple people, across the country are using, like I could do the work, but you need the funding.
Yeah, you need a go-to-market strategy, and it sounds like you
Yeah.
tried to go to market before the strategy was in place or something like that.
Yeah, and I also am just struggling to find how those two things kind of like fit together. Like, is it my job as a product manager?
Yeah, I think it can be, your job as a product manager if there's nobody in product more senior. But like expecting you to do that, I would look for go-to-market strategy in general and search like how that works, and just follow on the slides that I shared some of those people. I think that is its whole other area of like software that's being brought to the market. So you need to have a clear strategy before sending it out because it's almost too late by that point. But yeah, I think nobody starts with all those skills. I think that you just kind of expand outwards, and sometimes you need to lean on other people where your skills are lacking. Like say if it's UX, you're weaker on, or if it's design, or if it's the tech side, you need to have someone to lean on to be more informed and make better decisions. So I think like if your go-to-market strategy is the thing that you're not sure about at the moment, you need to consult the people who do know about it. It doesn't matter if they got the product manager title or not, but just like people who know about bringing in that that use case you have. It's not like bringing it to a private sector market. It's public sector. It's a bit different, the model.
Have you ever seen anyone have a good open source go-to-market strategy?
Like a kind of like contribution type, like we were talking, like Mark's talk earlier about like opening to contributions, and rather than a kind of there's different payment models. I wouldn't be able to comment specifically, and I can't think of one. Like, it depends if you want to make it optional or compulsory. There are different things. I think it's a whole area that we can talk about it later, though. I'd be keen to chat more about it, to understand it better, and then maybe share something more useful.
On that note, I just created a channel on Drupal / product managers.
Nice. There we are. Success. Making progress. Nice. Thank you, Vijay. And anybody else, or are we on time now? I think we are on time, aren't we?
Yeah. What time did you start?
A few minutes, about 7 or 8 minutes.
I
left.
haven't finished eating yet, apparently, so don't worry.
Okay. Anyone else, or are we done? Please share otherwise, or Slido, or catch me later. All good. Thank you very much, everyone.